in Iowa, Chuck Grassley's impact on the Kavanaugh hearings. Then, how are Democrats strategizing for a blue wave this year? Plus, you'll be seeing more libertarians on the Iowa ticket for the midterms. And we analyze new numbers about President Trump from a local pollster. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us here on This Week in Iowa. I'm Sabrina Ahmed. Will they debate, and when, and where? That's the big question hanging over the governor's race. Governor Kim Reynolds and her Democratic opponent, Fred Hubbell, both released a schedule of debates they want to go to. The problem, both lists don't match. Reynolds said she wants primetime coverage.
I want to debate live on NBC, and Fred wants to debate on a small cable channel. And I believe that it's absolutely important that we get in front of as many Iowans as we can to have a conversation on how we want to lead this great state.
Reynolds was asked if her campaign would consider accepting an invite to a lieutenant governor's debate. She quickly said no because there's no precedent. The Hubbell campaign does want a lieutenant governor debate. Switching gears, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley is getting backlash from some Iowans online for how he conducted the opening day of the Supreme Court Justice nominee hearings. This week, Grassley is defending how he handled the rough start to the boisterous hearing with Judge Brett Kavanaugh. Grassley is chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he's in charge of how the hearings go. Grassley did not allow Democrats to stall the hearing. The Iowa Republican says that he's been fair.
We had some fireworks yesterday that was very uncharacteristic, but once we got through an hour and a half of that, we went on for another 7 hours to listen to every member say anything they wanted to say, and I let them go way over their time period. They were normally limited to 10 minutes.
A full final Senate vote will likely be held at the end of the month. Let's take a quick break. Coming up next, the Democratic Party is ramping up its attacks on the governor, but are they resonating with voters? The party chair is with us next.
What a great Blitz game day.
1-point game last year. This is the one that everybody wants to win.
We're, up every morning practicing.
I'm teaching them life through instrumental music.
Meteorologist Taylor Canoes here with an update on our weather potential.
I can't wait to see the kids' faces. I think it'll be really exciting for the town and for all the kids.
Like us on Facebook at We Are Iowa for extensive local coverage. Watch what's happening live and see digital extras, local stories from Local 5.
This station seeks groups that regularly send information about work opportunities to job applicants or that have applicants to refer. If your group would like to receive notification of job vacancies at our station, contact us by U.S. mail, email, or by calling 457-9645. Individuals interested in employment in the broadcast industry are encouraged to visit weareiowa.com for a list of current job openings. Nexstar Broadcasting Companies are an equal opportunity employer.
The incredible Kelly Osbourne.
It's the newest Osbourne family adventure.
It's weird to have my brother be my boss. Sometimes I'm like, shut up, Jack.
And what freaks Kelly out more than anything?
It makes my knees buckle.
Then brace yourself.
Oh, she's giving us the stink eye.
Master of Slime Mark Summers, host of Pickler and Ben edition of the classic Double Dare.
No wonder why kids do this and not adults.
Monday morning at 9
on Local 5.
Selfless service is the principle that guides Army National Guard soldiers to be ready whenever disaster strikes. They have a stake in the well-being of the neighborhoods where they live and work. They train part-time to be ready to serve at all times. Selfless service. It's what inspires the men and women of the Army National Guard to be part of something greater than themselves. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more.
From the capital city, you're watching This Week in Iowa with Sabrina Ahmed, getting to the heart of what's happening in Iowa politics.
Welcome back, everyone. We are joined now by Troy Price. He is the chair of the Iowa Democratic Party. Troy, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me back on. It's great to be here.
So let's talk midterms.
Sure thing.
We are less than 2 months out.
Don't remind me.
What is the Democrat strategy during this kind of last phase?
Well, at this point, what we're focused on is going out there and making sure we're getting our Democrats out there and our supporters out to the polls. So we're making sure that we're talking to them about how they can vote early, where their auditors' offices are, and make sure that they have plans to go out and vote on Election Day. You know, we've been spending a lot of time here over the last 2 years now, since the last election, really focused on rebuilding our infrastructure and making sure that we are going out there and connecting with voters. And so all of that hard work is now, this is the final sprint. And so we feel great. We're in a great position. We have one of the strongest tickets we've seen as a party in a generation. And so we feel really good, and we're really excited about these last 2 months.
Voter turnout for primaries was pretty high, but...
Highest we've ever had.
Yeah, so how do you... pretty high.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that people are getting out to the polls still?
So we go out, I mean, it's basically about rebuilding relationships. So we have our volunteers out talking to voters, talking to them about the issues, talking to them about what's at stake in this election, and making sure that they have all the details they need. You know, there have been some changes in the voting law, so making sure folks understand that as well. But really just going out there and building those relationships and having those or not hard, but having those one-on-one direct conversations.
So Democrats have a fairly good chance of potentially flipping the Iowa House. It's definitely picking up some seats. So what are you and what are the other members of party leadership doing to target some of those races? What are the races that you see as the key races?
Well, listen, I mean, we feel good. We have 95 candidates running for the state house this year and 23 running in the state senate. And so there's some of there are tremendous candidates out there. I just was with one last night in Adair County. And so, you know, what we are focused on is really just making sure that they have the support they need from the party to go out there and, like I said, connect with those voters and get them out to the polls.
So let's talk about probably the highest profile race. Well, maybe. I guess you could consider the federal races. Yeah, yes. You do. But let's talk about the governor's race. As of this taping, Fred Hubbell and Governor Kim Reynolds have not agreed on a list of debates. Why is this so hard?
Well, listen, the Hubbell campaign went into those negotiations with the Reynolds campaign in good faith, and they had many productive conversations, and they hammered out an agreement on what the debates were going to be. And then at the last minute, the Reynolds campaign kind of pulled the rug out from those negotiations, hastily announced 3 debates, a couple of which the TV stations that they were agreeing to debate hadn't even been contacted or were aware that those dates were out there. And so so, you know, I think the conversations are going to continue. But I think what this really boils down to and what this is a sign of is that Governor Reynolds doesn't want to face the hard questions. You know, she's stopped doing her weekly press conferences. We've seen time and again as she tries to avoid hard questions from the press, avoid hard questions from Iowans out there, and this is just one more sign of that.
Governor Reynolds has said that Fred Hubbell is deciding to put the debate on the east side of the state, where he, frankly, is probably the least known. That he's trying to put that on a cable network because of scheduling problems within that network. She wants to debate on NBC. It's going to end up on a smaller stage because of the date that they picked. What is your response to that? My response continues to come back to is that they had come to an agreement, and then the Reynolds campaign changed it at the last minute. And I think you just have to go back and take a look at the motivations as to why they made that change at the last minute. I mean, those conversations have been happening. Wasn't just 1 or 2. I mean, they've been having conversations for a while. And the fact that she changed it at the last minute, again, I think is a sign that she doesn't want to face those hard questions about her record and about her vision and about her plans for the state. And it's because she doesn't have any vision or plans for the state, and that her record, if Iowans actually knew it, wouldn't vote for her. Do you think Libertarian gubernatorial candidate Jake Porter should be on the stage with Reynolds and Hubbell? Yeah, I mean, that's what the Hubbell campaign's been asking for that and trying to make that a part of the negotiations. Many political pundits from the left have been saying for months that this is going to be a blue wave across the country. How likely do you see that, or do you think that maybe some of these very progressive people are maybe just being a little optimistic? No, listen, I mean, there is true energy out there in the Democratic Party. And
everywhere I go, I see people who are fired up. I was just at an office opening in Adair County. It's the first time they've ever opened an office in Adair County in at least the last 15, 20 years. I was up at an event in Spirit Lake, which is, has been a red county for a while. They thought they'd have 75 people turn out for their event. They ended up having over 300. Place after place after place, we are seeing signs of this energy and momentum. But listen, a blue wave only comes if we make it happen. And so that's why we're out there trying to make sure that we have the volunteers we need, that we have the resources we need to make sure that we're competitive this fall. That's the only way any sort of wave is going to come. But I'll tell you, we have all the pieces in place. The energy is there. The candidates are there. The excitement is there. The message is there. People are fired up, and I feel like we're going to have a really great November this year.
Trey Price, we appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Short break. We'll be right back.
Call an aggressive law firm that won't accept less. No nonsense, no lowball offers, no delays. Tell them we mean business.
From an early age, Matt didn't like hugs. He didn't understand why a simple wave or hello wasn't good enough. But one day, his world changed. People are amazing. We're here to help keep them that way. Unity Point Health. Know how much you matter to this world.
Welcome to Quick Trip.
Need a dog sitter?
Need a hand?
Need your wallet?
Need some help? Need a slice?
Need some roller therapy?
Need an extra large?
Need me to get that spider out of your car?
I'm not going in there.
Yeah, that actually happened.
If you need it, we have it. QT, more than a gas station.
Local 5's team of meteorologists track how the weather will affect you.
Mapping at street level, focusing in on your neighborhood. Pinpointing the weather at your kid's school so you know what to expect.
Street level mapping. Another reason Chief Meteorologist Brad Edwards and the Local 5 weather team are Iowa's most accurate.
At Local 5 on your side means answers to your questions.
And we're just doing the stories that the community wants us to do, to empower you with something as a viewer that you can move forward with.
What drives these people to go above and beyond and be exceptional Iowans? That's stuff we can all use in our own lives.
To be able to be that line of connection for people is huge to them. And they can reach out to Local 5, and they're going to get answers.
We are Iowa, and it's everything to me.
You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
Welcome back. We are joined now by Joseph Howe, who is the chair of the Libertarian Party of Iowa. Mr. Howe, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So your party was officially recognized as a major party in the state of Iowa in 2017. What has that recognition done for your party since then?
A lot. It gives us ballot access. We're up 20% in the last year as far as our numbers go, registered voters. We're able to, do that caucus to convention cycle and really place a lot of candidates on the ballot without gathering thousands of signatures via our convention system. So it's been really great as far as having a full ballot this year, and we're really excited over that.
You do have quite a full ballot.
Yeah.
Can you summarize the Libertarian platform, for the values for me
Yeah.
and for our viewers who are still learning about the Libertarian Party?
I think a lot of it we learn in kindergarten, right? You don't hurt people and you don't take their things. So we feel that, government should be there to protect people from wrongdoers, to protect us from people that want to hurt people, cheat, steal, things like that. But they're not around to, govern our lives and how we interact on a voluntary basis.
Okay, so you have some candidates in many of the major races, governor's race, attorney general, District 3, major state house races. What do the candidates in the Libertarian Party offer that maybe Republicans or Democrats don't offer?
I think if you look at like the District 3 level, we don't hear a lot about foreign policy there. So Cindy Axne, David Young, very articulate, very good at debates and give their message up, but we don't hear about things like the war in Syria, where our troops are in danger of combating with Russians, for instance, right now. So issues like that they just don't really speak to, we can really speak to Iowans about. And we've seen a big reaction to those type of philosophies in the past. For instance, Ron Paul did very well here in Iowa several years ago in the caucus. So I think a lot of people are drawn to, looking at what's good for our veterans, good for our troops, and good for our foreign policy. On a statewide basis, I think we look at, fiscal sanity.
Fiscal sanity.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're in our, peak economy here in the state. You know, we're number one in all these different metrics and measures, but yet our state government's in the rainy day fund. And we don't understand how that happened, other that they made projections that they couldn't live up to, that our economy was unrealistically growing, and that's where our spending was based on. And I think we can take a look at that as a party and communicate that message that we need realistic government and realistic spending.
So news organizations have guidelines in order for someone to be involved in a debate. When our station hosts debates, we have parameters as well. It includes financial backing, among many other things. But does a libertarian candidate really belong on a stage and meet all of those criteria if there's not necessarily strong financial support? Don't people vote with their dollars?
Sometimes, but we always hear about big money in politics, right? So the media, our citizens, we talk about how we're frustrated that, you know, certain corporations, certain individuals have basically an outweighted vote because they can back candidates. So our feeling is we do deserve to be on the stage as a major party candidacy, as a major party ticket. And just because we're, you know, regular people with a smaller party doesn't mean that we're not worth hearing about. And we think the voters should have that choice, right? So Iowa voters, when we look at them, they do have an independent streak at times. And, you know, if you look at like H. Ross Perot's performance here in the state, you know, so we just really need to get in those debates. And once we're able to articulate that message, we can really maybe draw votes in and get some more support financially as well.
And how can you encourage, like, maybe people who create polls to have you participating in something like that?
I've reached out to about every polling company we have out there. So I looked at the 2014 polling. We've had very little compared to that year. I think only one since the beginning of the year, and that was in January. So it's really hard to meet the polling guidelines when there's no polling and we're not included in that poll to begin with. So that's really one of those criteria that we're trying to get in. And gosh, not a lot of response from them, though. You know, emails, phone calls go unanswered. It's kind of discouraging on that part.
Your party, as well as other political pundits, have asked for Jake Porter, who is, of course, running for governor, to be on the stage with the other gubernatorial candidates, Governor Kim Reynolds and Fred Hubbell. Have you spoken with the debate hosts? Of course, there are 3 elusive debates. Not sure when those are going to happen. But what has been the response, and why does having Mr. Porter on that debate stage matter?
I think the response has been mixed. So we don't have a commitment from all 3 stations. 2 of the 3 stations that are in talks have very high thresholds, like $250,000 in fundraising. Porter was invited to a debate, then rescinded, and then invited again via public release, and then they pulled that again as a mistake. So it's been very frustrating. The Hubbell campaign is very open to debating us. They've challenged us to debate alongside Kim Reynolds with them. The Reynolds campaign, according to the Hubbell campaign manager, released tweets that they don't want us there. So one of the conditions for having a debate with Fred is to exclude the Libertarian Party, and we don't really think that's Iowa nice.
What is the membership? You mentioned 13,000 people are right now considered libertarians, but you've been gaining in membership.
That's true. So about 20% over the last year. Last month, the Democrats and Republicans lost 400 members. We gained half that, 200. So with 700,000 voters out there that do not have a party affiliation, that's really our base that we can look to and try to draw people that are, you know, interested in a different sort of debate and different sort of policies than the other 2 parties have to offer.
Joseph Howe, we appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Time for a short break, but coming up next, the results are in from a local national political poll. So could President Trump win over voters again in 2020? We talk to the pollsters behind the new data next.
This station strives to provide quality children's television programming and endeavors to meet the children's television requirements set by the FCC and the Children's Television Act of 1990. We prepare a quarterly children's television report describing each program we broadcast. We invite the public to read this report during regular business hours and comment on the educational and informational needs of children in our community. Thank you.
Local 5 on your side means answers to your questions.
And we're just doing the stories that the community wants us to do, to empower you with something as a viewer that you can move forward with.
What drives these people to go above and beyond and be exceptional Iowans? That's stuff we can all use in our own lives.
To be able to be that line of connection for people is huge to them. And they can reach out to Local 5, and they're going to get answers.
We are Iowa, and it's everything to me.
On the the season premiere.
She tried to hire a hitman to kill her husband's ex.
A former model.
She showed up dressed to kill during her trial.
Was the thinking, I'm too pretty to go to jail?
A murder plot.
She said she wished she could kill her and get away with it.
That is a bold-faced lie.
A possible motive.
She's one of my kids.
And to do it, she had to kill their mother.
All new Dr. Phil exclusive.
Monday at 4 on Local 5.
Alexa, give me my Local 5 news headlines.
I'm Local 5's Sabrina Ahmed with today's top stories.
Set up your flash briefings by adding the We Are Iowa skills to your Alexa app.
You'll hear Local 5's top news stories updated 4 times a day. And plan your day with We Are Iowa's most accurate weather team, as I tell you if you need this or these.
Go to weareiowa.com/Alexa for easy setup instructions.
Alexa, tell me We Are Iowa's most accurate forecast.
I'm Local 5 meteorologist Taylor Canoes.
You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
Welcome back, everyone. We are finishing off our show this week with an analysis from a local pollster, Ann Seltzer. Thank you so much. Hi, how are you?
What a pleasure to be here.
We are very happy that you are. Director of the polling group Seltzer & Company. You and Grinnell College released the results for several topics in a national poll that happened over the Labor Day weekend. Let's talk about the presidential results first.
Well, let me just say, Sabrina, this is a brand new thing.
Okay, right.
This is the inaugural Grinnell College national poll. So this is the first time we've done it. You know, I was interested in doing something that would sort of go below the hot topic of the moment. And here's Grinnell College sitting out there where they've got a wonderful faculty with interesting ideas, and they wanted to have an educational tool for their students that they could have hands on the data, and they have had immediately after we did this poll, and they've got a faculty with a lot of interesting ideas, and so it was a very nice marriage.
So how did you do that? How did you go deeper?
Well, we asked questions that a lot of polls don't ask. Of course, we wanted to ask some of the main political questions of the day because we wanted people to recognize this as in a family of national polls you should pay attention to. But then we dug deeper. So, for example, or we went at things a little bit different way. So we asked a question about, would you vote today to re-elect President Trump? And there's not another poll that's asking that question right now. They're very focused on the midterm elections. And what we found was 36% saying today they would vote to re-elect President Trump, 43% saying they would definitely vote for someone else.
And 17% then said that they'd
consider someone else. So
did that surprise you?
I don't know that that surprised me. When you have an incumbent, you're always looking at the gap between that definitely vote to re-elect and 50%. So he's a ways down from that, but it's not ground that he couldn't make up.
Does Donald Trump still have a stronghold in his base? You asked some questions about demographics like, is this person a white male without a college degree?
And that is a demographic that came out of the 2016 election, one we hadn't really seen be so important before. He is still holding a majority of that group, saying that they would definitely vote to support the president if that election were held today.
Now, Ann, you have participated in many polls for many years. So what had to change this time around? Because when polls were released leading up to the 2016 presidential election, they said Donald Trump would lose. And then he won.
Well, let's be careful about what polls said and what they didn't say. So the national polls, for the most part, including the poll I was doing at the time for Bloomberg Politics, said that Hillary Clinton was likely to win by 2 or 3 percentage points. Well, that's the popular vote. And in fact, she did win the popular vote by 2 or 3 percentage points. So that's not a problem in the polls that was there. The problem in the polls were in very specific states, Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, where the final polls leading up to the election were done more on a panel basis. They weren't scientific polls that did a random sample of people. And so the way you do a panel is you get volunteers who say, poll me, and then you make them look like what you think the electorate is going to look like. And in an election like 2016, Who the heck knows? You know, I have a crystal ball collection, but it's not at my office. I don't use it professionally. So it was a lot of things. Those states had traditionally gone Democratic, and so a lot of people wrote them off and didn't bother to do any polling. And then the polls that were done weren't done in a way that they could see the change that was coming.
In a time when people no longer have home phones and they have spam protection on their cell phones, how do you really get to these people and ensure that you really are getting a fair sampling?
Yeah, well, so far, we're able to look at our internal checks on the data and see that certain things match up, that we know what we're expecting to find, and if there are little variations, those are things that we adjust by weighting the data. This gets a little technical here, but so far, we're finding in our response rates and in the way that our demographics look, we're not seeing any indication. We hear these stories all the time, and they keep us up at night, but so far, we feel like we can be accurate.
One final question for you. There was an interesting part about the poll that asked about trust from media sources.
Yes.
What did you hear? What did you learn as President Trump is calling certain outlets fake news and the lying news, whatever it may be?
The fake news and the failing New York Times. Well, we wanted to kind of get a sense of that. Grinnell College has been very interested in what they call truth decay, looking at whether people are really trusting what they're hearing in the media. So we did a round robin with the New York Times and Fox News and President Trump. And this week it's been very interesting to look at. There are a majority of people who say if they had contradictory information from two different sources, a majority would trust the New York Times over President Trump. Now, of course, among his base, the majority is going to trust President Trump. They're going to trust the New York Times over Fox News, but that's a much narrower margin there. President Trump against Fox News, that kind of leaves people a little bit going, I don't even know how to answer. We had a big not sure on that.
Ann Selzer, thank you so much. It's fascinating, and we look forward to continuing these conversations.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Short break, everyone. We'll be right back.
Accuracy means tracking the story. We do a good job of breaking it down and showing people what they can expect. It is so important to not only let you know what's happening at the moment, but to track out what's going to happen in the future. When exactly, at what time is it going to reach your neighborhood with every impact from hail to damaging winds and, of course, tornadoes. We give the information that's needed and we give it accurately. And I think people really appreciate that.
We are Iowa and it's everything to me.
The skills you can develop in the Army National Guard can give you an edge in the high-tech job market of tomorrow. The Guard offers career training to take advantage of your interests in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Gain practical experience with emerging technology and equipment that you can transfer to an exciting new field. Get a head start on your career while serving part-time and earning money to pay for college. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn about all of the STEM career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard.
What a great Blitz game day.
1 point game last year. This is the one that everybody wants to win.
We're, up every morning practicing.
I'm teaching them life through instrumental music.
Meteorologist Taylor Canuse here with an update on our weather potential.
I can't wait to see the kids' faces. I think it'll be really exciting for the town and for all the kids.
Like us on Facebook at We Are Iowa for extensive local coverage. Watch what's happening live and see digital extras, local stories from Local 5.
Join us every Sunday at 10 on Local 5 for the Iowa Realty Sunday Home Show, featuring new construction neighborhoods around the metro by the best builders in the market. We chat with builders and Iowa Realty professionals about open house, trends in the industry, financing information, and existing inventory. And our special Great Iowa Home feature each week showcases a luxury home listed by Iowa Realty. Now in our 34th year at 10 a.m. Sunday on Local 5 or at iowarealty.com.
Thank you so much for joining us here on This Week in Iowa. We have a special on Medicaid coming up next week. Please join us for that next Sunday.
Accuracy means tracking the story. We do a good job of breaking it down and showing people what they can expect. It is so important to not only let you know what's happening at the moment, but to track out what's going to happen in the future. When exactly, at what time is it going to reach your neighborhood with every impact from hail to damaging winds and, of course, tornadoes. We give the information that's needed and we give it accurately. And I think people really appreciate that.
We are Iowa and it's everything to me.
This station strives to provide quality children's television programming and endeavors to meet the children's television requirements set by the FCC and the Children's Television Act of 1990. We prepare a quarterly children's television report describing each program we broadcast. We invite the public to read this report during regular business hours and comment on the educational and informational needs of children in our community. Thank you.
Season 2.